pocket. We live in a strange world, and because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us with the capacity to think, to pursue knowledge independently, to pursue knowledge creatively, to extend the frontiers of knowledge. That's a human being. This is one of the reasons why He ordered the Malaika to make sajda before Adam alayhi salam, to send a message that will keep reverberating all through human history, that the human being has something exceptional that no one else has, not the jinn and not the angels, but the human being. And if you do not use that which Allah has given you, which is an amana, you will have to answer for it. And that is the capacity to think. And when Allah sent down the Quran, He didn't send it down to people who will simply memorize this kitab and that kitab and that kitab, and then like a gramophone record repeat the kitab. He sent it down لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. He sent it to a people who would think. And fikr is more than simply thinking. It is thinking things out. And so the mufakkir, or the thinker, has always been held by mankind in the highest esteem and respect. The thinker, heads and shoulders above the rest of mankind, the thinker. And so it is with thought, the capacity to think, that we now invite you to look at strange things happening in the world. Not the whole world, but rather one part of the world, which used to be known as European civilization, and then became known as modern Western civilization. And in this part of the world, because of Riba, because of a monetary system in which they took dinar and dirham out of the market and prohibited the use of dinar and dirham. It's there in the Articles of Agreement of the International Monetary Fund, prohibited, making haram what Allah made halal. Shall I repeat that? Making haram what Allah made halal, and that is shirk. Notice how I pronounce the word, and you will pronounce it the same way. Shirk. It is one syllable, not two. To make haram what Allah made halal is shirk. The one sin that Allah will not forgive if you die with that sin. And then they replace that dirham and dinar with bogus and fraudulent and utterly haram paper money. the Mufti who will come to challenge me. I'm waiting for him. Why doesn't he come to challenge me? Here is Imran Hosein speaking publicly and saying that your paper money is bogus, it's fraudulent, it's haram. Why don't you challenge Imran Hosein? Come on and challenge me. I have only one condition, however, that at the end of the debate between you and I, we must both raise our hands and make dua to Allah to punish with the greatest possible punishment, and with a punishment which will last forever, whosoever is wrong between us. If you are prepared, then come forward. Let's debate. They gave us bogus and fraudulent and utterly haram paper, plastic and now electronic money, so that they can use it as an instrument of oppression and of financial exploitation. That's the reality of the world today. And if we do not think, why have they done this? Who are these people? What is that which explains their conduct? What is their goal? Then we are not using the thinking faculty that Allah gave to us. That same civilization which gave us fasad, remember that word? Fasad. Fasad is that which corrupts. It is in the Quran. And it not only corrupts, it destroys. Fasad. That civilization which gave us fasad in the world of money, then gave us fasad in the economy and in the market, with the banking system, but that's not our topic tonight. Are these things happening by accident? Did modern Western civilization just drop out of the sky? Or is there something which explains it? We say it is only ilmu akhirul zaman, or Islamic eschatology, which can explain it. And tonight we want to look at yet another strange behavior of that civilization. The women of the West. It's not just a case of women seeking freedom in a feminist revolution, arguing that men are oppressors and that religion has been oppressive, and that modern Western civilization has come as the great liberator of women, to liberate you from oppression, to make you free once more. So you can put a cigarette on your lips, and on the billboard they say, "You come a long way, baby. You come a long way, baby." That Allah, sorry, let's not use the name Allah as yet. That all through history, every civilization has recognized a functional difference between the male and the female. That men have functions in society and women have functions in society. And that they have been biologically constructed and physiologically constructed in order to fulfill their basic functions. Along comes modern Western civilization and says, "No, wrong. Everything a man does, a woman must have the freedom to do it." So now you can see your Indonesian daughters dressed up in military gear and struggling to march like men. It's a funny sight. Oh, it's a funny sight. Because something about the Indonesian woman is she's always a woman. It's difficult. It's really difficult to take an Indonesian woman and make her a man. You could do it with many other women. You can do it with the French. You could do it with the Singaporean. And so, women now assuming the functional role of men in society. And when they do so, they dress like men. Is this happening by accident? She's dressed in a jacket. She's dressed in trousers. And she has a tie. What's going on? Why does she not dress like a woman? Why is she dressed like a man? And now she's working full time. So what happened to the babies? You cannot work full time, you fool, and still have 12 children like your mother did in Terengganu. That's gone. Now you've got to follow the American Sunnah, one son and one daughter. 2 children. And you can't work full time unless you have a slave at home. So she takes care of the house. What's a slave? If she is paid a wage, which is a true wage, then she won't be a slave. But if she is paid a wage which your woman will not work for, then she's a slave. So I ask you, Lee Kuan Yew, if you can still hear me, is there any Singaporean woman who will work in Singapore from early morning to late at night, day after day for the whole month, without any vacations, for the wage that you pay the Singaporean maid? No, therefore she is a slave. So the price of this modern feminist revolution is that you must have slaves at home, so they can work and take over from you, so you'll be a part-time mother, while the slave does the rest. This is harsh language. But if nobody else will speak for her, Imran Hosein will speak for her. If she doesn't have a voice, this is her voice speaking out. That is oppression. To pay her a wage that your daughter will not work for, and your sister will not work for. No. But she's paid that wage. That's slavery. That's oppression. And the religion of Islam has zero tolerance for oppression. So you can fast for Ramadan, and you can go make Umrah as often as you want. But so long as she is working for you as a maid, and you pay her a wage that no woman in your society would work for, you are an oppressor. أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. Not only did that civilization give us the working woman, and hence the daycare center, the working woman and therefore the daycare center. So she's now a part-time mother. But that civilization also gave us women who are dressed and yet naked. All through history, women were always covered. There were exceptional instances where women will go around the Kaaba on moonlight nights naked. But they did it for religious reasons, because they felt this was part of the pagan religion. Until Abu Zar, radiallahu ta'ala, who came home and started to bed them. But now, they are dressed and yet naked. It started with the taking off of the head covering. Oh, now I'm free. I'm free from this bondage, the covering of the head. Okay, let's see where you're going. What they call a baby. Baby. And then the arm is become bare. Oh, you're making progress. And then the skirt starts coming up and reaches up to the knee. Oh, you're making progress, and you're proud of your new freedom. And then she starts to become even more provocative in her dress. Allah has created her beautiful for men. And as she takes off her clothing, the provocation for men increases. Is this happening by accident? It starts over there, and then like a virus it spreads to the rest of the world. The revolution in dress, because she is dressed and yet naked, obviously has a sexual repercussion. And it leads to a sexual revolution, where the barriers which were built by society concerning the sexual bond are now dismantled. And eventually, sex is as free as the sunshine. You come a long way, baby. Sex is now as free as the sunshine. Well then, the implication would be universal zina. People eventually won't bother about getting married. Marriage is for the birds. Yeah. We, the young ones, we live a different way. We shack up. A boy and a girl decide we want to live together. We shack up. And we say to society, this is a new lifestyle. We shack up. And when we have a falling out, we just shack out. And this zina becomes now commonplace and acceptable. Just as yesterday, you had someone who was a very obnoxious character. William Shakespeare gave him a beating of his life, a man named Shylock. He was a money lender. And the term money lending was something evil. And then they came and they gave it a whitewash. And now he's a banker. And he's a very respectable member of society, the banker. Sometimes the only job you can get is in a bank. So in a similar way, what used to be considered to be detestable, zina, now becomes commonplace and acceptable. Is this happening by accident? If it is not, then we ask, what is the explanation for it? We have an explanation in Islamic eschatology, and this is ours. If you differ, then please tell me what is yours. Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam explained to us the sexual revolution. It's not just zina. No. Eventually, you reach a saturation point in the number of women you can have. And then it no longer excites you. So then you turn to something else. Because now men will dress like women. Yes. And some of you will be angry with me. Never mind, after the lecture is over, we'll be friends. If a man is to dress like a woman, the first thing he has to do, whether you like it or you don't, whether you approve of what I say or you don't, the first thing he has to do is to shave off his beard. It doesn't matter to them that it was Allah who put the beard on their face. No! You made a mistake. I'm taking it off. Because the modern world considers the clean-shaven face to be one of progress. And the beard represents backwards. So the first step on the road, if men are to dress like women, is to shave off the beard. Why would a man want to dress like a woman? Answer: so that he can attract another man. And so the sexual revolution eventually must spawn homosexuality and lesbianism. Inevitable. And that is already occurring in the world today. But that's not all. Eventually, you have to search beyond homosexuality and lesbianism to get your high. Nothing else is working now, and I'm in search of that high, to become high. So then you turn to children. And there is sufficient in the world today to tell you that it is present. The sexual exploitation of children. Is that the end of the road for the sexual revolution? No. You still have animals left behind. You still have animals. ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُمْ أَسْفَلَ السَّافِلِينَ. Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam gave us the explanation for this phenomenon, this sexual revolution. And he said to us that this was Dajjal sexual revolution. If you have another answer in your university, in the Department of Gender Affairs, come on and give it to us. We are waiting for it. The Department of Gender Affairs of your ministries or of your universities. Ours is, this is Dajjal. The Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, that the last people to come out to Dajjal, the last people would be women. The last would be women. So when the sexual revolution takes place, when the feminist revolution takes place, you should know that this is now the last stage of the mission of Dajjal. So how come the member, how come we're not being hearing any khutbah on Dajjal? How come our teachers and our scholars don't lecture and teach on the subject of Dajjal? What's wrong with them? He said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, that the last people to come out of Dajjal will be women. And a man would have to return to his home and tie down, meaning coercively restrain. Coercively restrain his wife, his sister, his daughter, to protect them from the fitna of Dajjal. In other words, Dajjal will be brainwashing women, and they'll be so mesmerized, so hypnotized by Dajjal, so totally captivated that they will lose the capacity to think properly. So you can talk to them and talk and talk. It's like pouring water on the back of a duck. Yeah, in Indonesia, bebek. In Malaysia.
Iti.
Huh?
Iti.
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 Iti. I know about soup, bebek. So you can talk to them. It's like pouring water on the back of Ibi, the duck. It just rolls off. So he has to tie down his wife and sister and daughter to protect them from the fitna of Dajjal. So we say this is it. The feminist revolution spawns the sexual revolution, and Dajjal is the author. The Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, that in Akhirul Zaman, women would dress like men. So that is the explanation. When you go to the back, now you can understand. He said that in Akhirul Zaman, women will be dressed and will yet be naked. It is now before us. It is Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam who explained the reality of the world today. Not your government, Muhammad alayhi sallam. He said that men would dress like women, implying that the first thing they would do would be shave off the beard. There you are. It's before you today. We asked tonight a number of questions. We won't be able to answer them all. But what are the implications for us in Akhirul Zaman? Implications of the sexual revolution. How does it impact upon us? And number two, why has Dajjal adopted this strategy? What is his goal? The Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, every prophet has warned his people about Dajjal. And the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam warned his people about Dajjal. But I am going to tell you something that no one ever said before me. Dajjal sees with the left eye, he is blind in the right eye. It looks like a bulging grape. But your Lord is not one eye. Between his eyes, on his forehead, is written the word kafir. Kafir. And don't come to me with this nonsense that every non-Muslim is a kafir. That's nonsense. No, every non-Muslim is not a kafir. Between his eyes on his forehead is written the word kafir. And every mu'min, the one who has iman in the heart, every mu'min will be able to read the word kafir, whether he is katib, literate, or ghayr katib, illiterate. Our interpretation or ta'weel of this hadith is that the left eye symbolizes external sight, and the blind right eye symbolizes internal blindness. Our interpretation takes us therefore to epistemology, the branch of knowledge which studies knowledge. Our epistemology is that knowledge comes to us from two sources, one external and the other internal. And when we go to Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran, we see the two epistemologies coming together. And the two epistemologies at work. Number one, with the boat. Number two, with the boy. And number three, with the wall. Shake your heads a little bit so I know you're understanding what I'm talking about. Huh? Number one, the boat. Number two, the boy. Number three, the wall. And there are two epistemologies at work. This epistemology fails on all three occasions, and this one succeeds on all three occasions. This is Khidr alayhi salam. And so Surah Al-Kahf is saying to us that when Akhir Zaman comes, and when you are subjected to the fitna of Dajjal, for example, his fitna in the monetary system, his fitna in the banking system, his fitna in the market, his fitna in the feminist revolution, his fitna in the sexual revolution, his fitna in the corruption of food production, etc. When that time comes, this epistemology will not be adequate. You will need this epistemology to be able to read and understand and decipher. And for this epistemology to work, you need faith in the heart. Iman. And when there is Iman in the heart, then Allah will make a hollow space in your heart. Fiha mishkat. And in that mishkat, He will place a lamp, misbah. The heart of the one who has faith. This is the second epistemology. And the attack being launched by Dajjal in the sexual revolution is to make this epistemology destroyed. When the lamp has oil and the glass is clean, then يَكَادُ زَيْتُهَا يُضِيءُ وَلَوْ لَمْ تَمْسَسْهُ نَارٌ. That oil is already glowing even though fire has not as yet When fire touches it, then you get nur inside of you. And it is with nur that Allah gives to you that you can now see what otherwise cannot be seen. The ayah ends with the words, Allahu bi kulli shay'in alim, indicating that the spiritual quest, the pursuit of nur, was for knowledge, not for karamat, not for performing miracles, not for being able to read your mind and to tell you what is behind that wall. Oh, I saw him here in Damansara, and they saw him there in Makkah going around the Kaaba. Whoa, mashallah. Nur is not for that. Nur is for knowledge. And so, in order for the Dajjal to succeed, he has to disable your capacity to see with the nur of Allah. Now, do I need to deliver the rest of the lecture? From the time you walk on the road of zina, your nur will be gone. Now, this is a mastermind at work. This is a mastermind at work. You have to admire him, the child. That he makes zina, he makes sex as free as the sunshine. And every young woman and every young man coming up at the age of 15, 16, 17 is infected with this virus. And he gives you the internet. And then you see what's happening in the rest of the world and you follow fashion. And then you walk down the road of zina. There might be, even here in this masjid while I speak, someone who is in that road of zina. There may be those who will listen to my lecture tonight in other parts of the world and are in zina and don't find it wrong. It's normal. So tonight, your brother Imran has come to share with you this analysis. That Dajjal, the mastermind, has taken you for a ride. And at the end of this ride, you've lost the capacity to use this epistemology. Well then, before we end, how should we respond? How should we respond?
There's a deepening. Food.
How should we respond? She's only 16. Why are you talking about marriage? That's what the mother said. Wait until she grows up. Oh, but your mother married at the age of 16. And your grandmother married at the age of 15. And your great-grandmother married at the age of that 15. So who brainwashed you? The strategy of Dajjal is to postpone marriage. She has to get an education, you dum-dum. She's got to go to university, you dum-dum. No, I'm not the dum-dum. You are the dum-dum. You are the dum-dum. You are brainwashed, you should go and take a shower to wash your brains. Because Dajjal has taken you for a ride. And we know that for many of them, it is not possible anymore. You can talk and talk and talk, but it will be like water falling on the back of
Itik.
Bebek. So what do? We part from you. That's right. We part from you. We don't want to be a part of Dajjal's civilization. So we go to the remote countryside and we build small communities. And in our small communities, we recover what you used to have long ago, before the Dajjal revolution came. And so our daughters will be married when they are young, 14, 15, 16 years of age. And if you don't like that, you can stay in Kuala Lumpur. Don't come to us with your brainwashed thinking. We say we must fulfill our basic functions first before we proceed to other functions. And Allah gave her a basic function. And it is Allah who does the writing, how many children you will have. It's not you. You have planned a parent. Allah writes how many children you will have. Allah writes how many boys and how many girls. And He said so in the Quran, وَابْتَغُوا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ وَابْتَغُوا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. Now seek for what Allah has written for you. And if you make the mistake to attempt to take over from Allah and do the right thing yourself, which is Planned Parenthood, then you commit shirk. You commit shirk. So that's our first response. Marriage must be early. Number two, Dajjal gives you, in the modern age, I use the word high, to get high. The one who is drinking the alcohol, he wants to get intoxicated. So, sexual intoxication is what they see. And the vehicle which is used to pursue sexual intoxication is a vehicle by the name of lust. L-U-S-T, lust. That's Dajjal's weapon. And the rest of this lecture is now being delivered for you who are 16 and 17 years of age, not for the elders. They know the subject already. But if you are 16 and 17 years of age, listen to me. Lust is like, you know, the Quran uses the term wine, rivers of wine. So using the same term that the Quran uses, lust is like a wine. You drink it to get sexual intoxication. But the problem is, you drink and you're still thirsty. You drink and you are still thirsty. The sexual thirst is still there. And the more that you drink, the greater does the thirst become. It's like Coca-Cola. So you have 200 women like Magic Johnson. And at the end of the day, the thirst is still there. The sexual intoxication is eluding you. No matter what tablets you use, and this and that and the other. And then you turn away from women and you turn to men. And then you turn away from men and you turn to children. And you turn away from children and you turn to animals. ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ السَّافِلِينَ. So we say to you that lust is a vehicle of destruction. Do we need to pursue that discussion any further? What is the alternative to lust? And our lecture is over. Allah has sent the Quran to explain all things. It's such a pity that we don't have time for the Quran. We have time for everything else. We have time for the hairdresser, but we don't have time for the Quran. If you want to know what is it that gives you the greatest satisfaction of all in the relationship between a man and a woman, it is to the Quran you must turn. Yes, the Quran will explain. And when we turn to the Quran, Allah speaks of Jannah. And He speaks of men and women in Jannah. And the highest of all bliss in the male-female relationship in Jannah, guess what it is? It is not sexual intercourse. مُتَّكِئِينَ عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ مُتَقَابِلِينَ. That they are in physical proximity with each other, reclining on couches, facing each other. This is all that we have. We have to connect the dots. We have to now use our imagination to connect the dots. In other words, it is and now I'm going to have to use some poetic language to touch the hearts of those 17-year-old and 16-year-old teenagers, okay, so excuse me now. The Quran is directing attention to a gentle touch. A gentle caress, a little kiss, a hug. And if she is a woman who is still a woman, and if between you and Allah knows what is in the heart, وَعَلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَحُولُ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَقَلْبِهِ. Allah hovers between a man and his heart. So if there is lust in your heart, Allah can see it. And lust and love cannot live together in the same heart. Lust and love cannot live together in the same heart, either one or the other. If there is love in the heart, and if there is rahmah, kindness and compassion in the heart, then what would be the effect of a gentle touch? وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. And amongst His signs is this, that He created for you from your very midst, He created your mates, your spouses, that you might dwell together in sukoon, peace, contentment, tranquility, bliss. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. And He placed betwixt your hearts love and kindness. So if, when you sit with her, in your heart there is no lust, if instead there is love and there is kindness, then a touch can do wonders. A gentle touch can do wonders, provided she is a woman who is still a woman. You don't need all of that sexual activity, going down the road for 200 women, and then going to alter sexuality and homosexuality and this and that and the other. No! One sip, just one sip is enough to quench the thirst. With that wine you drink and you drink and you drink and you drink, and the more you drink, the more your thirst grows. And with this one sip is enough, and she is in heaven. With just a gentle, and remember, I'm now talking to the teenagers, so excuse me. I'm talking to the teenagers in France and in Britain and in Canada and the United States. We have one from Belgium here, we have another one from Belgium in the back there. With one touch, you will take her to the stars, and she will dance with the stars. And her thirst will be quenched. Because Allah says, مُتَّكِئِينَ عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ مُتَقَابِلِينَ, that they recline together on couches, facing each other in Jannah. Provided that there is no lust, provided that there is respect, provided that there is kindness, provided that there is compassion, provided that there is lust, then a gentle touch is enough. The Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, he said, when you marry a virgin, so you can sport and play with her. Those were his words. Because as a woman grows older and older, her capacity to respond becomes slower and slower. Until Sauda radiyallahu ta'ala anha, our mother, al-Mu'minun, she gave her night to Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha. So Aisha got 2 nights, and Sauda didn't need any more. Why? Because she had passed the age, she felt, where she could respond to such stimulation easily and gently, become pleasurable. Sorry. So one has to take into consideration the factor of age and show compassion when a woman reaches that age when she can no longer respond as quickly as with a young woman. Now, how do we get the woman with whom we're going to recline on the couch, hugging her and kissing her and sitting facing each other? How do we do it? Answer, through marriage. But Dajjal came along with a master plan. Good men have only one wife. Decent men have only one wife. Respectable men have only one wife. Men who are role models in society have only one wife. That is Dajjal's rubbish. In order to take men and transform them into boys. If you don't understand, then start thinking. His objective is to take men and to transform them into boys. There are worlds inside a man that Allah has created, which can only be opened by a woman. And if she does not open it, you live your life and you'll die without ever having grown to what you could have grown. That's Muhyiddin ibn Arabi, Shaykh al-Akbar is called. Shaykh al-Akbar. That is a woman who can open the doors of the world which are there in the man, so that the versatility of the male can be displayed. And he can grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. Most of all, intellectually and spiritually. That's what a woman does. And so Allah says, فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَى وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَعَ. And so marry women who are pleasing to you. 2, 3, 4. Not every woman is as beautiful as a rose blossoming in the garden. No. Not every man is as handsome as Yusuf alayhi salam. But when Allah puts love in your heart, she will become beautiful in your eyes. And he will become handsome in your eyes. That's what love does. So you marry 2, 3, 4. وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا. If you fear that you will not be able to act justly with your wives, meaning this is your wife and she is accustomed to this standard of living, and you take a second wife and now her standard of living must drop. No, she should not have to pay a price for your taking a second wife. No. You can take a second and a third and a fourth, provided that you can maintain them the way you maintain her. How many men can do that in Akhir Zaman? When Riba rips us apart. وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدًا. And stay with only one. With only one. أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ. Amen. And it is here that we find very strange things going on in the tafsir. Oh yes, very strange things happening in the tafsir. Tell me, is it possible to marry a slave? What is the nature of a marriage contract? A marriage contract is one in which a woman has the freedom to accept or to reject. And if she does not have that freedom, the contract is invalid. Does a slave have the freedom? No, only a free woman. Only a free woman has the freedom to say, no, I don't want to marry you. A slave does not have that freedom. So if you have to free her, so she becomes a free woman before you marry her, I ask you, you dumb, is she still a slave? How can you say he married an idol worshipper? Oh no. When she took the Shahada. But if she took the Shahada, is she still an idol worshipper, you dumb? No, she's now a Muslim. She's not an idol worshipper. Don't say he married an idol worshipper. She was an idol worshipper. So if she was a slave, and you liberated her, you gave her her freedom, is she still ma malakat aymanukum? Is she still a slave? No, she's not. So I ask the question, is it possible to marry a slave? The answer is no, a contract of nikah is not possible other than with a woman who is free to accept or to reject. And so when Allah says, for wahida, then marry only one. أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ. It is dishonest to say that Allah is saying, marry one woman, and in addition to that, you can marry from your slaves. Because a contract of marriage can only be executed with a woman who has the freedom to say no. This is a subject that requires further research, and we do not want to pursue the discussion any further on the subject now. But Allah speaks in the Quran maybe about 12 or 14 times about married women plus malakat yad or malakat yamin. And with this, if she commits zina, this is her punishment. But if this one commits zina, what is the punishment? Half. Half the punishment. Okay? So now we say, in order to respond to the sexual revolution, it is necessary for us to try to ensure that every woman who wants a husband gets a husband. So in our Muslim village, and mashallah, we have 4 projects now in Malaysia. In our Muslim villages, every woman who comes to the village and says, I want a husband, she has a right to a husband. He does not have a right to a wife. No. He has a duty to marry her. She has a right to her husband. So every woman who comes to the village, somebody will have to offer to marry her. So we will have in our Muslim villages plural marriages to the extent that men have the means to take a second and third wife without causing the first wife to lose anything of her standard of living. But in addition to marriage, the Quran also gives us a second group of Malak al-Yamin, which needs to be researched by our scholars, so that in responding to the sexual revolution tomorrow, when the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that they're going to be having sexual intercourse in public like donkeys, we are responding to that before it happens. And we say, this is our response. What is yours? We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may guide us to understand better and better Dajjal's strategies by which he seeks to destroy our faith. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may guide us to the right path. That in the light of the Quran and in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, we might discover the appropriate way to respond to Dajjal's fitna. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين. If you do not want to ask a question, you can write it and send it up to me. This is a subject which everybody has a question to ask. And I'm sure the Imam will allow me a few minutes to answer your questions before we have the salah. Yes? Bismillah. It will be easier, in fact, and save some time if you write all your questions and send it up. Yes, Bismillah. Wa alaikum salam.
Eminent scholar, I would like to just tell me what role does Iblis play in this phenomenon? What you say, Dajjal. So, in what respect, Dajjal and Iblis are two different entities.
I cannot answer this question other than by referring to Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Only he can answer. And yes, he did speak to us about the role which the shayateen will play, plural shaitan, in Dajjal missions. I'll give you one hadith. There are others, I'll give you one. وَيُبْعَثُ مَعْهُ شَيَاطِينَ. And there will be shayateen who will be raised with Dajjal. يُشَبِّهُونَ بِالْأَمْوَاتِ, who will assume the appearance of those who died. Your father died 40 years ago, and tomorrow you will see your father standing in front of you. Standing in front of you. His face, his voice, his memory, things that he knows and nobody else knows, and he'll be there in front of you. يُشَبِّهُونَ بِالْأَمْوَاتِ يَقُولُونَ لِلْحَيِّ, and he will say to you, تَعْرِفُنِي, what's wrong, son? Don't you recognize me? أَنَا أَبُوكَ, I am your father. أَنَا أَخُوكَ, I am your brother. أَوْ ذُو قَرَابَةٍ مِّنْ, or some close relative. Those who do not have Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam would say, modern science has done it. The Hindus were correct. Reincarnation. Those who have Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam would say, get away from me, you shaitan. Next question. Yes.
I hope you listen. You listen. Is this topic actually is currently taught in, for example, the Islamic university in Malaysia?
No. Islamic eschatology is not being taught. No. This is Ridwan from Belgium. Okay, we got a question here. Please explain the responsibility of a husband in providing for his family. Now wives must work to provide for families. Yes. The Prophet said alayhi salatu wasalam that the time will come in after the zaman when one man would have to maintain how many? 50 women. One man would have to maintain 50 women. This could imply that men will abandon their responsibilities of maintaining. An Indonesian maid who works in the same building where I live, and it breaks my heart every day that my daughters have to take the garbage. My daughters have to take the garbage out every day. They gotta clean every day. These are my daughters. And they gotta leave their families in Indonesia. Some of them are married, leave their husband, leave their children, and come and work for a pittance. This is because of Riba. So when we teach the subject of Riba, we actually are a voice for those who have no voice. Because of Riba today, we have a destruction of the market. Men can't get jobs anymore. And the only jobs that are available are for women. So Lee Kuan Yew negotiates with the government of Indonesia, and some fat cat in Indonesia is going to become rich over this contract, to take village girls and give them some minimal training and send them to Singapore as slaves, and send them to Saudi Arabia as slaves. And they go all over the place as slaves. But the salary that they get when it goes back to Indonesia is a fortune. Because the Indonesian rupiah is now 10,000 to 1 USD. This is riba at work, the destruction of the market. Eventually, jobs are going to be lost. You'll see what's going to happen in the United States of America. Wait, when the US dollar collapses. How many people are going to lose their jobs? And because they took bank loans on interest and they mortgaged their properties, they cannot pay the mortgage, and so they're going to lose their house. How many have already lost their houses? Huh? And they're on the streets. This is why so many women now have to look for a job, to earn a livelihood, to maintain themselves and their children. وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا فِي الْيَتَامَى. And if you fear that you will not be able to perform your duty, your moral responsibility to the orphans, meaning children whose fathers are not maintaining them, either because the father is dead or the father has abandoned them. Either because the father is dead or the father has abandoned them, he is ensconced. And the poor mother now has to take care of herself and of the children because that man is gone. وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا فِي الْيَتَامَى. If you fear that you will not be able to fulfill your responsibility towards these children for their maintenance from the budget of the city, from the budget of the village, from your Baytul Mal, from your Zakat, because the bank will burst. You don't have enough funds. فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ. So, the solution is the collective responsibility cannot be fulfilled because you don't have the funds. Those men who have the means must marry. And when you marry the mother, you will assume the responsibility for maintenance of the children. So she doesn't have to walk this street searching for a job. You will be amazed. Every day I get an email from a woman. She's in France, she's in Belgium, she's in Canada, she's in the United States, she's in Germany. Sheikh, I'm divorced. I have these children. My former husband is not maintaining them. I want to get out of this society. Can you help me? Can you help? Every day I'm getting these emails that break your heart. If a man sends me the email, my heart can still remain strong and say to him, well, these are the questions, these are the problems and so on. But when you get an email from a woman with children, what do? It breaks your heart because she needs help. How can we help her? How can she make hijrah? She wants to get out of France. She wants to come to Malaysia. Yesterday when we used to have Islam, you said, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and that's your visa. That's your visa. But when you go before the immigration officer at KLIA and you say, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, he'll laugh at you. He'll laugh at you. That's yesterday when you had Darul Islam. Today you have this that you call an Islamic state, okay? And now you have immigration laws. You didn't create the land, you didn't create the trees, you didn't create the sunshine and the rain, he did. But you now impose blocks upon people who want to come and live in your midst and who are brother Muslims. Yeah. So what do we do when men run away from their responsibilities of maintaining women and children? We cannot solve that problem in the city. If you can solve it, go ahead and do it. We say tomorrow it's going to become worse. It'll be 50 to 1. So our solution is to get out of your cities and go and build micro-communities, Muslim villages. And there every man will fulfill his duty of maintaining women and children. Secondly, we say The manner in which to do it is to marry the mother and assume the responsibility for maintaining her children. Next question. No more? Yes.
It's like to ask regarding Surah Al-Kahf between the boat and the boy and the wall. Just want to understand what's the significance of the story of the wall that Muslim can do today.
Okay. There's a book outside entitled Surah Al-Kahf in the Modern Age. That I've written 3 books on Surah Al-Kahf already, and there's one more to be written, quartet. The first one is the tafsir, Surah Al-Kahf, the tafsir. And the second one is the ta'weel, or the interpretation of Surah Al-Kahf in the modern age. The third one is an Islamic view of Gog and Magog in the modern world. And these 3 have already been written, and the last one is on Dajjal, which is still being written. So if you read Surah Al-Kahf in the modern age, the story of Khidr alayhi salam and Musa alayhi salam, you'll get the answer there. Any more questions? No more? ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا رب